July is one of those months where you're gonna have to catch your breath because we have 4 planets going retrograde, including our bestie Mercury goes retrograde in July, as well as a major shift and change. The planet Uranus, the planet of change and awakening, will be moving out of Taurus into Gemini after 7 years. So that is a big one that I'm really looking forward to, because as soon as Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to be making some really nice aspects with Pluto, the planet of transformation, as well as Saturn, the lord of time and karma. So really interesting month ahead. And in this video, I'm going to go through all the 12 zodiac signs. I'm going to share with you your horoscope for July and what these retrogrades and what Uranus changing signs may mean for you and your zodiac. But before that, let me break down the astrology for July, because we got 10 major astrological changes happening. So let's get into it. Let's kick off with July the 4th, because the goddess of love, relationships, pleasure, sensuality, and creativity moves out of Taurus into Gemini. Now, Venus will move into 2 zodiac signs in July. It's going to move into Gemini, but also right at the end of July, it's going to move into the sign Cancer, which I'm super excited for it to move into. Now, when Venus is in Gemini, it's very playful, so relationships, friendships can be really playful. If you think about more of like a committed relationship, it can have more of a friendship to it as well. It can need a bit of freedom, it can need a lot of stimulation, especially a lot of mental stimulation. So going out on dates that are more mentally stimulating, that are exciting, where you have like a lot of movement, is really good for Venus in Gemini. And also when it comes to just your creativity, you can also bring out a lot of different dimensions of self. You can explore a lot, you can find out just different things that you enjoy, and different versions of you, your femininity can come out during this time, because Gemini it's a twin zodiac, it's duality, it is all about exploring the different versions of self and the different dimensions of self as well. So that's exciting. Venus in Gemini is definitely more playful, needs more space as well, needs more stimulation. That's a big word. Now, on July the 30th, when Venus moves into Cancer, it's a whole other story, because Venus in Cancer is a homemaker. Venus in Cancer, especially when it's going to be joining Jupiter, it's just such a delicious energy. It's going to enjoy indulging. It's going to be very sensual, very intuitive. It's all about bonding and connecting and really finding pleasure in relationships and at home. It's just such a beautiful energy. So that's something to really look forward to at the end of the month. Let's talk about the retrograde. So we have Neptune going retrograde, Saturn going retrograde, Mercury going retrograde, and also Chiron going retrograde. Let me break down each of these retrogrades for you. So when Neptune goes retrograde, and mind you, Neptune and both Saturn are in Aries, early degrees of Aries, but they will be making their way back into Pisces. So it is a karmic time, and when I say karma, I mean a period of reflection, a period of going into the past and anything that hasn't been fully cleared out, really getting into the depths of it and releasing and letting go so that you can begin anew. Neptune going retrograde is revisiting a lot of the past illusions, revisiting a lot of confusion, revisiting even your spiritual beliefs and practices, revisiting places or areas or experiences where you've wanted to kind of escape from. And this also ties in with Saturn. Saturn is known as the lord of time, the lord of karma. When Saturn goes retrograde, to me, it's kind of like a teacher really helping you and guiding you, and sometimes it's not easy because you don't really want to listen. You're kind of in the rebellion mode and you want to do everything your way, but Saturn truly is a wise one. He's a wisdom keeper, he's an elder, he's a sage, and you know, it's about going over certain periods of your life where you've needed to take responsibility. It's going over certain areas that you've perhaps avoided responsibilities. It's about maturing yourself. It's about becoming more wiser. When you look at these retrogrades from a positive, empowering perspective, they can really help shape you, help shift energy, and help you really move on. You know, in order to move on in any area of life, you have to first confront what are you trying to move on from, and why are you trying to move on from it. And when you have learnt those lessons, and you have, and I mean really have learnt those lessons, not the ego saying you've learnt it, like really done the work, you know, the future, the path is all clear, and it's really time to move on. So that's what retrogrades really help us with. And with Mercury retrograding in the sign of Leo, you know, Mercury goes retrograde a couple of times a year. Again, a time of reflection. We all need a period of reflection in our life. We're always on a go. It's the Mars energy where we're unstoppable, life never slows down, but Mercury retrograde helps us to step back a bit. Yes, sometimes things may not go the way we want them to go, or they may not go on the time pace that we want them to go on, but there's a message behind that. There's a learning lesson behind that too. Then we also have Chiron that goes retrograde. Now, Chiron is known as a wounded healer, so it reflects parts of self that have experienced pain or have experienced hurt. And when Chiron goes retrograde, depending on where it's aspecting in your chart, this could help us also do a lot of shadow work, learn about what is still kind of holding us back, help us to move forward, but it's all about doing that self-work. But July is going to be one of those months, you know, of a lot of reflection, a lot of heavy reflection. Happens every year during this time, but it's needed, you know. Like I said, we all need to spend time to reflect, to learn about not just the world around us, but the universe, the ocean that exists within us as well. Let's talk about the lunar events of July. So we have a full moon in Capricorn, and I really like this full moon because there's some positive aspects happening with Saturn and Uranus. And full moons give us an opportunity to release, to let go, to cleanse, to detox. So it's about letting go and releasing old feelings, old emotions that you've absorbed, especially in the last month, letting go of old ways of doing things, letting go of things that are not working out, letting go of certain structures or certain ways and routines also of doing things that are no longer working, that are no longer serving you. So a great reflection period, but with letting go and with releasing, you make space, you make room for the things that you want to do, the things that serve you. We also have a positive aspect between the full moon and the North Node. So this is a positive little hint to the future that, you know, when you cleanse and release the old ways of doing things that are not working out, when you release the old baggage, the emotional baggage, when you release the memories that are no longer serving you, you're making space, you're making room, and you're clearing your path to the future. So a really nice full moon, even like Uranus and Pluto making a really nice aspect. So a lot of magic there, a lot of transformation. Now let's talk about the new moon in Leo. This is a very intense new moon because it's opposite Pluto. Okay, this new moon is opposite Pluto. It doesn't get more intense than that. I mean, the sun and the moon opposite Pluto, the planet of transformation. So, you know, this is a time where we can have deep desires. We can have very intense desires. We can be very determined, very motivated, but it's a time to be very aware of your feelings and your emotions. With Pluto aspects, whether natal or transiting, it can have almost this unconscious influence on people. And I've seen it time after time where even though the person feels like they're aware and they know what they're doing and that they're in power or control, there's almost like this other dominant force that has control over them, the unconscious, that is kind of taking over, and it can get very complicated and it can get very dark as well. So with this new moon in Leo, be very cautious and conscious of yourself, you know, reassessing yourself, reanalyzing yourself, questioning your motives, having ego checks is super important with any Pluto influence, especially when we have the new moon opposite Pluto, because this is a time where people can really be in their ego. They can be very stuck and set in their ways and can be very reckless as well. Like, that is the dark manifestation. However, the positive manifestation is a lot of truths being revealed, a lot of enlightenment, a lot of things that have been buried or hidden coming to light. So it can be a very awakening and a very enlightening time. Now, new moons are often associated with new beginnings, new chapters, and when it comes to a new beginning, a new chapter, be mindful of your energy and your intention. You know, what do you want the next month to look like? What do you want the next month to feel like? What do you want the next month to be like? How do you want to manifest the next month for you? Be very conscious and be very in tune with your spiritual divine power, but also know when is it kind of going out of balance. You know, we all have this divine power within us, but sometimes, you know, there's the ebbs and flows of life can imbalance that energy. Sometimes, you know, that power can dominate in a positive way. Sometimes it can dominate in a very negative way. So there can be some power struggles revealed during this time. This is a time where I probably wouldn't get on somebody's bad side, because you just don't know what the opposition is willing to do to prove their point, or what they're willing to do to feel in control or power, because there's just a very unconscious energy here. You also have the positive with this, which is a Saturn Uranus influence. So, you know, if you are working with integrity, if your intentions are clear, things are ready to change. Things that have been long overdue, that have been really keeping you in this certain type of structure, routine. Saturn, with Uranus's influence, you know, there's a lot of shifts, a lot of positive shifts and changes, awakenings happening, okay? So a lot of things going on in July. Now I'm going to go through all the 12 zodiac signs and share with you your horoscope. I will leave the timestamps down below, and I'm wishing you all the best this month. Hi Aries, Aries rising. Let's take a look at the astrology for July 2025. It's retrograde season and we have a major shift happening, and that's the planet of change and awakening. Uranus is changing from Taurus into Gemini. So a lot to unpack. Let's get into July the 4th and talk about Venus first, because Venus enters Gemini, and it will change signs again at the end of the month. So Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, will enter Gemini, which means it will enter your third house. So when Gemini is in the third house, it's really social, it's talkative, it wants to bond. You know, romance is through intellect, it's through mind stimulation, it's through activities, going out, traveling around. It needs mental stimulation. So that's what you may find a lot of pleasure in. And if you are like a writer, or you need to brainstorm ideas, you need to get creative, Venus can also help you when it's in Gemini in the third house. Now Venus will move into Cancer right at the end on July the 30th. So it will move into the fourth house, joining Jupiter. Venus in the fourth house is all about home, family, cuddles. It indulges in food, especially with Jupiter. It's a very beautiful, benevolent energy, you know, Venus and Jupiter coming together. So there could be some really nice moments at home. There could be just a lot of pleasure at home and finding comfort at home. So that's a really nice energy. Now, let's get into the retrograde energies, because on July the 4th, not only do we have Venus going Gemini, but we're kick-starting this retrograde tour, and that's Neptune going retrograde. So Neptune is currently in your sign, and I hope it's going well, and I hope it's supporting you and helping you, especially with sense of self. So when Neptune goes retrograde on July the 4th, it's going to be there for a couple of months. It will re-enter Pisces, meaning it will move out of your first house into the 12th house. So will Saturn. Now Saturn will go retrograde on July the 13th. So there's a lot of revisiting the past. There's a lot of revisiting the past cycle that you've been going through. You know, we're not fully moving into this Aries energy yet until next year, but we're getting a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a taste. So depending on your personal chart, and this varies, you may have felt something different. You may have felt a lot of attention coming towards your sense of self, identity, ego, life path, even how you think, attitude, mentality. And with the retrograde energy, it's about, especially Neptune and Saturn, it's about going over responsibilities, going over what requires more of your energy, effort, and attention. With Neptune retrograde, it's about going over any type of illusions or going over anything that is confusing, really clearing out things and coming to some important, profound realizations, okay? And when both Neptune and Saturn move into your 12th house, it's going to make you go back into the past, revisit some past situations, and it's about really doing that soul work, that karmic work, okay? So it's not a negative energy. To me, everything has the potential to support us and empower us. So think of it as that, okay? But for the meanwhile, with Neptune and Saturn, there's more of a focus on sense of self, identity, and the life direction you're moving towards. Even though we're in retrograde energy, there's a lot of reflection here. We also got Mercury in Leo going retrograde on July the 18th, and that's going to happen in your 5th house. So this is a time where this area of life, your 5th house, which is about pleasure, leisure, what brings you joy, even romance and dating, this area of life can slow down a bit. There may be some things that you need to revisit, or certain conversations that need to be had, or some clarity that you require. So it's just a normal Mercury retrograde. We go through it, a couple of times a year, so nothing to stress about. These retrograde energies support us. And on July the 30th, we also have Chiron going retrograde. Chiron is also in your sign. So again, a lot of focus on sense of self, identity, life direction, a lot of attention, a lot of focus on you and the path that you're on. And identity is super important to you. You're the first zodiac sign, so that is super, super important. Now, let's move forward and talk about Uranus entering Gemini. So that's happening on July the 7th. And it is going to re-enter Taurus. It's only going to give us a bit of a taster. But nonetheless, this is moving out of your 2nd house into your 3rd house. So this is about the mind, awakening, ideas, creativity, brainstorming, communication, connecting with others, movement, activities, traveling. This is really going to be a awakening time. You can even find spiritual awakening through this transit. Uranus does bring awakenings. It wants freedom. It brings innovation. So you can definitely channel so much creativity. You may want to really express yourself and your innovative ideas, your uniqueness through some form of communication, whether that's written or verbal. You may want to break free by traveling around and getting to know the city you live in, or even the country you live in. You may want to really connect with others and network. You're probably going to really be quite somebody who accumulates a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge through this transit. Uranian topics and themes may excite you, even like topics such as spirituality and astrology may excite you. You're going to be very mentally stimulated through this transit, and it's really going to be super awakening. So that's a very exciting energy. July the 10th, we have a full moon in Capricorn. And this full moon in Capricorn for you is occurring in your 10th house. So full moons are a culmination point. If you've been hoping or wishing or waiting, well, less emphasis on the wishing, because with Saturn in your sign, it's all about doing. It's all about putting in the energy. When we have full moons, this is a time where things can shift and change. There could be something that comes to an end for a new beginning to occur. And this is a really healing full moon in Capricorn. There are some positive aspects between Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, so I'm looking forward to that. With the energy in your 10th house, so the sun will be in Cancer in your 4th house, and the moon will be in your 10th house. So for you, there's a lot of emotional focus when it comes to career goals and ambitions, and there's also a lot of energy and attention when it comes to home life and family life. And there could be a new beginning, a new start, a breakthrough. If you've been working hard on something, if you've been waiting for some news, this could be the time. So that's super exciting to look forward to. I really like this full moon in Capricorn. Now let's move into the new moon in Leo. So July the 24th, we have a new moon in Leo in your 5th house. This is quite an intense new moon because it's opposing Pluto. So when we have a new moon opposing Pluto, we've got to be very careful of our intense emotions, getting into any power struggles or ego battles, being careful of the intentions of others as well. And because you have Pluto in your 11th house is about friends, groups, and networks and acquaintances. So there could be something that is revealed during this time. But in terms of new moons are about new beginnings, new chapters, new cycles happening in your 5th house. And remember, we do have a Mercury retrograde energy happening as well. So there's some type of focus or growth or energy around when it comes to your sense of joy, playfulness, leisure, what you do for pleasure. This could even be about your creativity, your creative energy, and also romance and dating. There may be something that shifts or changes, something profound that occurs in this area of life. And this is also connected, like I said, with friends and groups and networks and acquaintances and hopes and wishes for the future, because Pluto is here. This could be a time of great awakening and transformation as well. So, Aries rising, wishing you all the best this month, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Taurus rising, let's get into your astrology horoscope for July. Now, July is a big month. We have retrograde season occurring, 4 different planets going in retrograde, but also a major energy shifting. Uranus is moving out of your sign, Taurus, into Gemini. This is going to be huge. In the first time since the last 7 years, Uranus is moving out of Taurus. That is going to be mega. Now, before I get into that, let's first kick off with what's happening the first week of July, get into the retrogrades, and then I will get into Uranus changing signs and the lunar events. So let's get into July the 4th, because Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, enters Gemini. Venus will be moving not only in Gemini this month, but also in the sign of Cancer on July the 30th, which I'll get into. But first, Venus moving into Gemini means it will be moving into your 2nd house. So the 2nd house rules over values, possessions, what we own, money manifestation, self-worth, worthiness, even when it comes to like self-confidence, okay, and self-belief. Venus in the 2nd house loves the material, so you got to be kind of mindful of spending habits during this time. Values also become super important. Finances become super important. So that's where a lot of the focus will be with Venus in Gemini throughout the month. And then when Venus moves out of Gemini into Cancer on July the 30th, moving into your 3rd house, Venus may take more of an interest in communication, bonding through getting into topics and discussions, and it's all about intellect, it's all about mental stimulation and movement and travel. That's what Venus may find joy and pleasure in. Now, let's get into the Neptune retrograde, because that's happening on July the 4th as well. Now, Neptune and Saturn will go in retrograde this month. So Saturn goes retrograde on July the 13th in Aries, but they will eventually move back into Pisces. So there's going to be kind of a crossover between your 12th and 11th house. The focus is first going to be regarding 12th house matters. So we're looking at the subconscious, we're looking at the past, we're looking at karma. And when I say karma, it just means, things of the past where balance is due, where we need to revisit and reflect and come to clarity. With Neptune retrograde, it's about reflecting on any part of life that there's some type of illusion or confusion and getting really grounded. With Saturn retrograde, it's about taking responsibility, getting wiser and getting more mature. And this being in the 12th house, it is about past situations, okay? And retrogrades give us an opportunity to do the shadow work so we can clear the things that do not serve us and move forward. We also have Mercury going retrograde in Leo, July the 18th. This will be impacting your 4th house. So we're looking at home, family life, personal life, security. That is going to be of great importance. Not only does Mercury go retrograde in Leo, but there's also a new moon in Leo on July the 24th. So a lot of energy here. And this new moon, it's going to be an intense one, because it's going to be in an opposition with Pluto, which is in your 10th house. So things can come to light, things can be revealed. I mean, when any type of energy is under the influence of Pluto, it kind of gives like a full moon type of manifestation where there's awakenings, where there's transformation. With an opposition, you got to kind of be mindful of intensity. You got to be mindful of the unconscious or anybody else that where there's like a power struggle or an ego battle. If anything, you can learn a lot about yourself. You can learn about others. You can learn about your deep desires. You can learn about what requires balancing. Now, new moons are associated with new beginnings, new cycles, and new chapters. So with a new moon in Leo in the 4th house, there could be some progression or some type of change or transformation happening regarding home, family life, personal life, and security. And even when it comes to like learning about ancestry or heritage. Now, speaking of the Leo retrograde, the Mercury in Leo retrograde, we also have a Chiron retrograde happening on July the 30th, which will give kind of a similar effect that Neptune and Saturn will be giving, because it's also in the 12th house in Aries. So again, reflecting on any type of difficult scenario, situation, challenge that you've gone through in the past regarding whether it be in childhood, or whether it be in relationships, or whether it be something that even from like a past life, I mean, especially when it's in the 12th house. So there could be some realizations coming up to the surface, and Chiron always supports us to empower ourselves and to turn some of our more painful memories into inspiration, or turn them into motivation. So that could be a empowering time as well. Now let's get into Uranus, because Uranus on July the 7th is moving out of Taurus into Gemini for a brief while, okay, due to retrograde motion, but it will be moving out of your sign. Now, it's been in Taurus for the last 7 years, and, you know, whenever it's in your sign, it really changes your life, and I'm talking all directions of life. I would love to know how this has manifested for you in the last 7 years. If you feel comfortable with sharing, leave a comment down below. Love to hear from you. So Uranus does bring a certain level of unpredictability. It can bring just changes that you weren't expecting, but it's all about stepping up to the next level. It's all about elevating. It's all about awakenings. Now, when Uranus moves into Gemini, it's moving into your 2nd house. 2nd house is associated with the Taurus energy. There's similarities there. So we're looking at, this is a material area of life. This is about money manifestation. This is about finances. This is about resources, what you own, values, self-belief, confidence, worthiness. Uranus here is going to shake things up. You may want to manifest money through something different, or you may want more financial freedom, or this area of life may sometimes even change in different ways that you weren't expecting, because Uranus does bring unpredictability, and sometimes things don't go the way you want them to go, but Uranus is all about elevation. Uranus is all about change. So it may even like change your values. It may even change your attitude towards money and resources, but there's a change happening here. There's an awakening happening here. Something new is emerging, okay? So that's what the focus is going to be at for a brief moment while Uranus is in Gemini. And it, of course, is going to impact everyone in different ways. You know, no two charts are the same. So with Uranus now moving to 2nd house, it's more about the material, okay? So that's something to watch out for. You know, Uranus brings a lot of change into one's life. It brings a lot of awakening. It also brings an urge for freedom and independence. Let's talk about the full moon that's happening on July the 10th in Capricorn. It's a very beautiful healing full moon energy, and it's happening in the 9th house. So the sun will be in the 3rd house, ruling over communication, the mind, and travel, and the moon will be in the 9th house, ruling over the higher mind, ruling over studying and learning and foreign travel. This is also where you find faith and optimism. So there could be some type of shift, change, or transformation in those two areas of life. This is also a culmination point. So something that you've been working towards may manifest during this time. Or perhaps something is released or let go of, or something comes to an end for a new beginning to occur. And there are some positive aspects between Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune here, which encourage freedom, independence. So, Taurus rising, exciting month ahead. Wishing you all the best, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Gem Rising, let's take a look at the astrology for July and how this may impact your zodiac. Now, we have some really strong Gemini energy coming through. One of them is that on July the 4th, we have Venus, the goddess of love and relationships, entering your signs. But then also we have Uranus, a mega planet, moving into your sign on July the 7th. And this is where the shakeup, the change that you've been waiting for can occur. I'm going to get into all the transits that are going to occur in July. But before that, let's get into all the retrograde energy, because July is one of those months where 4 planets are going retrograde: Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, and also Chiron. So Neptune goes retrograde on July the 4th, and it's going to stay in retrograde motion for a good couple of months. It will start off its retrograde motion just like Saturn in the sign of Aries in your 11th house, but then gradually it will change back into Pisces, moving into your 10th house. So this is a period of reflection. This is a period of this area slowing down but requiring more kind of like internal focus and attention. Starting off in your 11th house, Neptune can reveal any illusions or any confusion or anything that is misty or foggy around the area of friendships, groups, networks, or even hopes and wishes for the future. And Saturn helps you to see where you need to be more responsible, where you need to be more mature, where you need to apply more wisdom. It's all about growing pains with Saturn. So a lot of focus on your 11th house, a lot of focus on the past situations, or areas where you need to just pay more attention, pay more focus, and elevate to the next level. Mercury goes retrograde in Leo on July the 18th, and this will be impacting your 3rd house. So, the 3rd house has to do with communication and learning and ideas, and also daily tasks and daily travels, community as well. So, this is very typical. Mercury goes retrograde a good couple of times a year, and the 3rd house being associated with Gemini, there could be a lot of focus on conversations and certain conversations perhaps that you need to have, or things that you need to get to the end of, the bottom of, or situations that need some sort of resolution. That could be a major topic with Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde can sometimes impact those that have strong Mercury influences, such as if you have strong dominant Gemini energy. So yes, this could be a time where things don't go the way you want them to go, or things can slow down, or there's kind of like a time pace kind of thing going on. But just trust in the process. There's a learning lesson behind everything. July the 30th, Chiron in Aries goes retrograde, again emphasizing on 11th house. So we're looking at friends, groups, networks, social circles, and also hopes and wishes for the future. It's about reflecting. It's about focusing on this area and learning a lot of lessons and learning wisdom, and also mastering yourself and how you fit into this area of life. So now we got the retrogrades out of the way. Let's get into the changes, the transits that are occurring, such as Venus moving into Gemini on July the 4th. So Venus will start off on July the 4th in your sign, in your 1st house, okay? And this is where there's going to be a lot of emphasis and joy around self, pleasure, romance, dating, relationships. Even though the 1st house has to do with sense of self and identity, you may take a lot of pride in how you dress up, how you appear, and also just like even the 5 senses. But also relationships will play a huge part. You may need a lot of mental stimulation. You may want to travel. You may want to bond and connect, and just have really good conversations, and go on like adventures as well. Like, you need a lot of stimulation. So this is a good time for you. This is a time of a lot of creativity, a lot of joy, a lot of pleasure coming through for you. Now, July the 7th, Uranus enters Gemini, joining Venus in your first house. When Uranus enters Gemini, and mind you, it's kind of like a sneak peek, a little teaser, because due to retrograde motion, Uranus will go back into Taurus. But whenever Uranus enters your zodiac or changes areas of life, it's a major shakeup. Uranus shakes things up, it changes things. It's like a quantum leap, it's awakening, it's really peeling off the layers and coming into wholeness, coming into who you truly are. Uranus transits can be unpredictable. They can make things a little unpredictable, and things may not be stable, but that's because there's so much change occurring that you weren't perhaps ready for or expecting. But being an air sign, you can adapt really quickly and easily, so it shouldn't be that much of a challenge. But Uranus is an awakener. When it comes to changing into your area of life, this could impact sense of self, identity, all areas, all aspects of life, from career, home, relationships. If there's any area of your life that you need to change or you want to elevate, Uranus can really support in that. Now, Venus will also change signs at the end of the month on July the 30th. It will enter Cancer, moving into your second house, joining Jupiter. So that's where there'll be more of an influence on self-worth, values, resources, what you own, the material realm, money manifestation, finances. You have to be kind of mindful of spending habits and indulging, because when Venus and Jupiter are together in the second house, it's a spender. So you got to be really cautious and conscious and mindful of how you're spending. But then there's also a lot of benevolent energy shining its light in the second house. So it can really support in also working with like just being a Gemini dominant, working with your mental energy, your ideas to bring in more money manifestation. This could be a time where it really amplifies your sense of self and worth and values as well. And there could be an emphasis on resources and what you own. Moving on, let's talk about the full moon in Capricorn on July the 10th. It's a very healing full moon in Capricorn occurring in your 8th house. So a lot of emphasis on the second and 8th house. So we're looking at the resourceful houses and material realms as well. When we have the full moon in the 8th house, this could impact resources that you share with others, anything you share that is very profound with someone else, intimacy, taking relationships to a whole nother level. And also when it comes to transformation, spiritual transformation. So this could be a time where if you've been working hard on something, there could be a change, a transformation. Something can come to an end. Something can come to a closing of a cycle, for a new beginning to occur, for a new manifestation to occur. And this is regarding second and 8th house matters, okay? So this could be also a very healing time, like a spiritually cleansing, spiritual healing time. Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are making positive aspects here. So there's a lot of emphasis and support on growth and elevation as well. Let's talk about the new moon in Leo happening on July the 24th. This is going to happen in your 3rd and 9th house axis. It's quite an intense new moon because we have the new moon opposite Pluto, okay? So there's a lot of intensity. There could be some deep felt emotions, desires that come up. Be mindful of getting into any power struggles with anybody else. And this is impacting the house of communication, but also the house of travel and higher learning and wisdom. This could be a time where you kind of overanalyze just everything from yourself, your mind, your beliefs, to people, places, situations. But even though it's a new moon and it's emphasizing on new beginnings, new cycles, and new chapters occurring, there's also an emphasis on letting go and releasing and doing a lot of deep spiritual transformation. So there's a lot of healing energy, a lot of spiritual energy available during July. With a new moon in the 3rd house, this can also awaken and ignite new ideas, new thoughts coming through, even creativity that can support you in writing and expressing yourself. So if you work in any form of creativity or expression or communication, great time for that. So Gem Rising, a huge month, especially for your zodiac. Wishing you all the best, and may the change you are hoping that occurs really manifest for you. Hey Cancer, Cancer rising. Let's take a look at the astrology for July and how it may impact your zodiac. So a lot going on in July. It's retrograde season, but we also have Venus entering your sign. We also have Uranus, which is a planet of change and awakening, moving sign. So it's a big one, okay? It's a big one. Let's get through the retrogrades first, and then I'll get into the changes that are occurring. So, 4 planets going retrograde: Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, and Chiron. Both Neptune and Saturn will be going retrograde in your 10th house. They've just started their transit in Aries, but due to retrograde motion, gradually they will re enter Pisces. So, the energy will focus on your 10th house, and Neptune going retrograde is about illusions, confusion. It's about revisiting any kind of mist or anything you're unclear about and really clearing that away so you can get really grounded. And Saturn here also emphasizes that, because Saturn is about being realistic. It's about taking on your responsibilities, maturing, becoming even more wiser. So hand in hand, both Saturn and Neptune going retrograde, it's about revisiting any past confusion, any past illusions, or anywhere where you need to be more responsible, pay more attention, focus more, and become more wiser, become more mature in this area of life. And it's going to support you in your career, goals, and ambitions. So really helping you to clear away anything that doesn't support you so you can move forward, especially when both Neptune and Saturn go direct and re-enter Aries and they start their transit in Aries in the 10th house. It's going to be really supportive in terms of career goals and ambitions. Mercury goes retrograde in Leo on July the 18th. This will be impacting 2nd house that rules over self-worth, values, resources, what you own. This also rules over money manifestation and finances. So a revisiting in this area of life, a slowing down in this area of life, getting more grounded in this area of life, focusing and paying more attention to the details. With Mercury retrograde, sometimes things don't go at a certain pace that we want them to go because there's a greater lesson to learn. And the lesson here, it's about gaining even more wisdom regarding how you feel about yourself, your self-worth, values, which often, if we're looking at law of attraction, can impact the material side of things. So that's where the focus of the Mercury retrograde is at. Chiron goes retrograde on July the 30th, also impacting matters of the 10th house, so career goals and ambitions. Any area of life that Chiron is transiting or impacting, it's about becoming more wiser as well, and elevating and evolving any pain or challenge that you've experienced regarding this area of life. It's about confronting it and doing that shadow work so you can become more empowered, okay? So a lot of focus on the 10th house. Now let's get into the changes. So July the 4th, Venus enters Gemini. It does move into the 12th house. It's about spirituality. It's about the spiritual realm, your connection with the divine. This gives you also a lot of empathy and intuition, and more tuned in with your feelings and emotions, and also the feelings and emotions of others. It also gives you a lot of creativity. You may even want to spend more time kind of in your shell with Venus in the 12th house, but it really helps you to connect more with the heart, the higher heart, and channel your creativity, and also grow your relationship with the divine or the universe, whatever you believe in. Right at the end of the month, July the 30th, Venus enters your sign, moving into your 1st house and joining Jupiter. So it's a very beautiful energy, really lighting up sense of self, identity, creativity, 5 senses, relationships. It's going to be a time where you're just in really good spirits and focusing on yourself, appearance, how you dress up, aesthetics, also life path, life direction, and maintaining relationships with other people. So that's some really beautiful energy, especially when Venus and Jupiter come together in the sign of Cancer. So nurturing, so healing. I'm all about it. Now let's get into Uranus, the big one, changing signs on July the 7th, entering Gemini. So it will be there for a brief moment. It's kind of like a teaser taster before it goes retrograde. And when Uranus enters Gemini and moves into your 12th house, the energy is really different.
it's more about the inner realm and the inner self, okay? There's a lot of attention towards the past, where the past has kind of stopped you or prevented you from change or elevation or becoming who you really truly are. And what Uranus does is it strips us away from who we're taught to be, and leaves us with nothing but the raw core of who we are, our identity, our uniqueness. So this could be a time where there's a lot of reflecting and revisiting past situations of where change has been required. And what it's really doing is helping you to see where in the past you have kind of lived life a certain way, but how now you can kind of move forward as well. It's also a lot of focus on spirituality. Uranus also rules over awakening, so there could be a lot of spiritual enlightenment here, spiritual awakening, especially when it comes to intuition and getting these downloads coming through and channeling. And there's just so much moments here of awakening, okay? A lot of focus on your spiritual practices as well. So it can also support in quantum leaps and quantum jumps. And even the 12th house is a non physical area of life. It still supports in manifestation that is more got to do with the inner self, and more of the metaphysical side of life as well. So a lot of magic there with Uranus in the 12th house. Moving on, July the 10th, we have a full moon in Capricorn occurring in the opposite sign. So the sun will be in your sign and the moon will be in the 7th house. So the focus here is on your sense of self, identity, life direction, and significant other people in your life and relationships. It's a very healing full moon, and full moons are about endings, things coming to an end, cycles coming to a close for a new beginning to occur. So there could be some changes here, some transformation regarding yourself and other people or relationships and partnerships. This is a time where Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are making positive aspects, so it supports us in letting go of something, letting go of a certain structure, something from the past that doesn't serve us anymore, so we can truly move forward and make progress. But relationships are key during this time, as they are every year with a full moon in Capricorn for you, because it's in the opposite sign, which is a reflection, a mirror to you. And this is a time of also doing a lot of deep shadow work and spiritual healing. So a really nice full moon in Capricorn. July the 24th, we have a new moon in Leo. This new moon is occurring in your second house. Now, this is an intense new moon because it's opposing Pluto, which is in your eighth house. So the focus here is on resources, particularly with the sun and moon and Mercury in the second house. It's about what you own, your resources, how you feel about yourself, self-worth, values. And it's important to be mindful of your desires and your feelings and emotions, because Pluto can have the effect where it can bring a lot of deep, strong desires where it can even kind of imbalance us sometimes. So just being mindful of how you're feeling and assessing and analyzing how you're feeling and your thoughts and your intentions, because even those in opposition, Pluto has a very magnetic effect. There could be some progress here, there could be some change or some type of development occurring regarding second house matters. So whether that's resources, finances, what you own, the material realm, how you feel about yourself, values. Be careful with any opposition or getting into any power struggles or getting into any type of ego battle with anyone else, especially with Pluto in the eighth house. It can be very strong. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of the world within you and also the world around you. So Cancer, Cancer rising, take care this month, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Leo, Leo rising. Happy solar return for those celebrating with the sun changing into Leo this year. We have an action-packed month because we have not only the sun changing signs into Leo, we got a new moon, and we got a Mercury retrograde. And speaking of retrograde season, we actually have 4 planets going retrograde in July. Let's unpack those. Then I have a major astrological transit happening that I'm so excited to share with you. So buckle up for that one because it is a shakeup, okay? But let's get into the retrogrades first. So we got Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and Mercury all going retrograde. Saturn and Neptune and Chiron will be going retrograde in July in the sign of Aries. So there's a lot of focus on your ninth house. So we're looking at mind, wisdom, faith, optimism. We're looking at travel, foreign places. There's a lot of emphasis here on communication as well, because the ninth house is also an area that rules over communication. We're looking at belief systems and philosophies. Now, when Neptune goes retrograde, it's more about revisiting any confusion, revisiting any illusions, revisiting anything that is unclear so you can get to the bottom of it. And it ties in hand to hand with Saturn, because Saturn is about responsibilities and going over where you need to gain more wisdom, where you need to gain more maturity. Chiron retrograde in this area of life is about revisiting any type of hurts or challenge and coming to some sort of resolution, empowering yourself. Okay, Chiron is known as the wounded healer, so it's all about empowerment. So retrograde's time of reflection, period of slowing down, but ultimately it's to gain knowledge and wisdom. And with Saturn here in the mix, it's about maturity and becoming the best version of self. With Mercury retrograde happening in your sign, this is impacting you more profoundly than any other zodiac sign. So particularly when it comes to your sense of self, identity, life direction, and also relationships, okay? Mercury retrograde is going to be helping you to go back over the past, anything that needs to be revealed, anything that needs to be resolved, anything that needs more attention and focus. With Mercury retrograde, sometimes things don't go the way we want them to go or on the time pace we want them to go, but ultimately it's for your highest good so that you can learn and grow. That's always the lessons behind retrogrades. Now, speaking of all this Leo energy, I want to jump, actually, before I get into the big one, let me jump straight into the Leo energy. So July the 22nd, we got the sun entering Leo, so happy solar return. So there's a lot of emphasis on self, a lot of emphasis on your identity when it comes to creativity, when it comes to family, relationships. Leo energy is alpha, it's dominant, it's about leadership, assertiveness, so a lot of light shining there. We have a new moon in Leo on July the 24th, and this is a very intense new moon because it's opposite Pluto. So happening in your first and seventh house, this is impacting sense of self, identity, life direction, and also relationships and partnerships. Whenever we're under the Pluto influence, it's important to be very conscious, mindful, and cautious of our unconscious drives, okay? Our deep desires, intentions, emotions, and motives, because Pluto can have a very dominant effect. Now, with Pluto in the seventh house and in an opposition, you're also going to be mindful of other people and their motives and their intentions. It's not something you want to kind of like get into an ego battle or power struggle with, because things can get really intense. It's better to work with mindful practices where you're aware of situations, you're aware of emotions, you're aware of what's going on, and working on self, working on personal growth, working on overcoming shadows and transforming areas of self. New moons also have to do with new beginnings, new cycles, a new chapter. This could be a time if you've been working hard on a certain ambition, goal, something you've been waiting for the right moment with all your hard work, something to work out. This could be the time. So very strong, potent new moon in Leo. Okay, now let's get into the big one that I was talking about, and that's Uranus. Uranus moves signs from Taurus into Gemini, stepping outside of your 10th house into your 11th house. Now, there may have been a career shakeup or change occurring the last 7 years, or perhaps you're continuing to go through that change depending on your own individual chart. But now Uranus will move into Gemini for a brief period until it goes back into retrograde, moving into the 11th house. Now there's a focus on friendships, other people, networks, social circles, collaborations, working together, and building for the future, hopes and wishes and visions for the future. Uranus is a game changer. It's about innovation. It's about authenticity. It's about individuality. It's about freedom. So you may meet a lot of Uranian type of people who are kind of like out of the box, different, unique, very eccentric, or your friend circle, your social circle may go through a change, a shift, or even when it comes to collaborating and working towards future goals and ambitions and what you want for the future, your hopes and visions for the future, this could be a time where a lot changes as well. So this is a mega shift in astrology. Uranus changing signs, okay? Now, let's get into Venus, the goddess of love and relationships. July the 4th, Venus enters Gemini, entering your 11th house. And Venus will be in your 11th house, and then Uranus moves into your 11th house as well. So a lot of focus here. You may find a lot of pleasure, a lot of joy hanging around people and collaborating and creating, and just you may be a social butterfly, okay, during this time. And then right at the end of the month, July the 30th, Venus enters Cancer, moving into your 12th house, joining Jupiter. So there's more of a focus on spirituality and mysticism and writing, art, poetry, emotions, empathy, connection, bonding. It can also be a very romantic, intuitive energy. So that's really beautiful as well. Let's get into the full moon happening on July the 10th. It's a very beautiful, healing full moon happening in your 6th house. It's about wellness, daily life, routine, self-care, and also work. Full moons bring an ending, release of some sort for a new beginning to occur, and there could also be a transformation that occurs in this area of life. This is also connected with your spirituality and dreams and creativity, and also when it comes to like the past as well, because the sun will be in the 12th house and the moon will be in the 6th house. So a very healing time if you've been working on becoming a better you, improving on self-care. This could be a time where something changes and where it can also be very empowering as well. So Leo rising, take care, have an incredible month ahead, and I will speak with you soon. Hey Virgo rising, let's take a look at the astrology for July 2025. So it's retrograde season. We have 4 planets going retrograde, and we have a major change happening, and that's Uranus changing out of Taurus into Gemini, and that's going to be huge for your zodiac, depending on, of course, your individual chart and house systems. So let's get through the retrogrades first, and then I'll get through some of the new changes happening in July. So the planets that are going retrograde in July are Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries, and then they will gradually move back into Pisces. We also have a Mercury retrograde happening in Leo, as well as a Chiron retrograde happening also in Aries. So a lot of focus on the Aries energy in your 8th house. So we have Neptune, Saturn, and Chiron that are all going to go retrograde in the 8th house. Now, the 8th house rules a couple of things. It rules over the more mundane aspects. So we're looking at the financial things that you share with others. This also rules over deep, intimate relationships. It rules over spirituality, spiritual development, spiritual transformation as well. You can get even more esoteric and deeper and get even more mystical with this area of life as well. But that's more of the mundane aspect of it. So with Saturn going retrograde here and Neptune, there's a lot of focus, and both these planets kind of tie together in the sense of the lesson here is about taking on responsibility for areas or experiences or situations that may have been either a little unclear, where there may have been some illusions or confusion, where there might have been some more, I guess, wisdom needed in this area of life. That's what both these retrogrades, especially Neptune and Saturn, are going to help with, is to make you more wiser, make you more mature, deeply reflect and take time with this area of life. It's going to also impact relationships, because the 8th house is about taking relationships even more deeper than just the 7th house, okay? It's like what's mine is yours. So it's much more deeper. And relationships are very much getting influenced this month, because you have Mars in your sign, which is opposing your 7th house. So there may be some things that you need to go over, or some things that you need to work through as well. Now, of course, that doesn't apply to everyone. It's really based on each individual's chart. With Chiron here, Chiron reveals where we may have been where we may have experienced pain or challenge, and it helps us to do a lot of shadow work and empower ourselves. So again, a lot of empowering in this area of life. Retrogrades are not here to screw us over. They're really here to help us take our time with things and help us to go over things we may have missed out on, and really be in a introspection mode and just gain even more wisdom and knowledge. So that's what retrogrades are all about. We also have a Mercury retrograde happening in Leo in your 12th house on July the 24th. So retrogrades happen a couple of times a year. This retrograde is happening in the 12th house for you. So whereas Mercury is very extroverted and outgoing and it's an outward energy, the 12th house is more introverted. It's a much more secluded, introverted, inwards energy. It's more of a yin energy. So with Mercury here, this is really about the mind. So again, taking time with things. This could be a time where you're doing a lot of reassessing, reflecting. This could be a time of diving into intuition, emotions, matters of the past that are kind of holding you back. And what it can help is learn where you need to move on from the past so that you can move forward. Okay, so it's quite not just a reflective period, but also a very healing time, because anytime you have a 12th house transit happening, yes, it makes us dive deeper and deeper and deeper and reflect on past, but really what that is doing is helping us come to some sort of awareness so we can move forward. So that's all the retrograde energy. Now let's move on to the changes happening. So July the 4th, we have Venus entering Gemini. So when Venus enters Gemini, it will move into your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. Nice place for Venus to be if you're really focused on this area of life. So this could give you a lot of charm, a lot of charisma. It can really help you to network, meet the right type of people, and also bring in a lot of creativity and a lot of pleasure at work. Interestingly enough, a couple of days later, July the 7th, Uranus enters Gemini. It's going to be there for a brief period, and then, it's going to go back due to retrograde phase, but Uranus is a major player in astrology. It spent the last 7 years in Taurus, so quite a breeze of fresh air. And when Uranus is in Gemini, Uranus is going to be impacting your 10th house. Uranus is known as a planet of change and awakenings. It can bring a lot of unpredictability, things you weren't prepared for. The higher manifestation is pushing you to where you do need to evolve, where you do need to grow, whether you're comfortable or not in it. Uranus is all about getting you out of your comfort zone and really living your purpose, living your truth, living, on the timeline you're meant to. It can also help with those quantum leaps and jumps. So shaking up things in career goals and ambitions. Uranus is associated with freedom. So perhaps, you want to break free. I've seen this transit happen where all of a sudden something unpredictable can happen that puts you out of your comfort zone, that makes you really think about other options and other things that you want to pursue in your life. It can also make you very restless and impatient in kind of like the current role you're in, especially if it's really mundane and boring to you. Even though as an earth sign, earth is all about the mundane, okay? So it's very comfortable doing the human, 9 to 5 kind of thing, but Uranus just brings another influence in where it kind of like out of nowhere makes you want to break free or do something that is very innovative, or do something that is just so unique and different, that is not the norm, that people wouldn't probably even know you for. That's what Uranus can sometimes have, that kind of influence. So it's about breaking free, it's about freedom, it's about originality, it's about innovation, and it's going to impact everyone differently. No two charts are the same, but that is the typical manifestation with Uranus in the 10th house. July the 10th, we have a full moon in Capricorn. It's a really beautiful, powerful, healing full moon, really helping to reset and get back into self. So this full moon is happening in your 5th house. So the 5th house rules over pleasure, it rules over creativity, how you play, and in terms of how you have fun. Also has to do with romance and dating. So full moon here, meaning the moon's going to be in the 5th house and the sun is going to be in the 11th house, which could also impact friendships, groups, networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. A lot of positive aspects between Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So full moons associated with letting go, endings for new beginnings to occur. There could be a transformation, whether it be in your 11th house or your 5th house, regarding either friendships, groups, networks, social life, hopes and wishes for the future, creativity. If you're creating something, if you're planning some type of activity that allows you to experience more pleasure or have fun, or this could even be connected to dating as well, relationships. So there could be a change happening there. And this full moon does reveal that if we let go of things that do not serve us, whether that being actual situations or emotions or just stuck energies, stagnant energies, if we really are on that path of letting go and transforming, that the future is looking good. And that's because of Saturn and Uranus and Neptune making positive aspects together. Moving on to the new moon in Leo, July the 24th. So this is happening in your 12th house. So we got the sun here. We're also going to have Mercury retrograde and the new moon. So even though the 12th house is, from one aspect, kind of like a hidden area of life, but there's also so much light, divine light in this area of life. We have so much energy here for you. So even though you've already had Mars here and you're kind of like probably tired of the 12th house, but the 12th house being the area of life that rules over spirituality, your relationship with either the divine, universe, creativity, emotions, empathy, intuition, dreams. There's a lot of focus here with the new moon. Now, I gotta say, this new moon is very intense because it's opposing Pluto. Whenever we have an Pluto influence, we gotta be mindful of our deep desires, our emotions, our motives, our intentions, because Pluto kind of has like an unconscious drive to it and influence to it. Pluto is going to be in your 6th house, the area of life that rules over daily life, health, wellness, and also work. So just be mindful if there's anyone kind of like in an opposition or disagreement with you, because of the intensity, be mindful of yourself as well, that you don't say or do something you'll regret later on. And also just know how to keep your composure, which probably you already do, being an earth dominant, earth energies like nature, the mountains, the trees. So it's pretty much composed, but certain influences can have just a different impact on us, something that we're not used to. But on a deeper level, this opposition is, again, kind of like a full moon energy. Where do we require a letting go? Where do we require a detox? Where do we require a shedding, a releasing to kind of clear the room for growth? So regarding the 12th and 6th house matters. So this is kind of like a balance between spiritual and the human life experience. The 6th house is very mundane, whereas the 12th house is very much ether, universe, mysticism, magic, euphoria as well. So finding the balance between these two areas of life. And there could be also a new beginning, a new cycle, a new chapter that occurs. Now, right at the end of the month, July the 30th, we also have Venus changing signs. So Venus will enter Cancer. It will be joining Jupiter, which is a very beautiful energy, impacting the 11th house. So Venus is very social here, loves to go out, play, have fun, socialize, interact, collaborate. So it's going to be a time where you're finding a lot of pleasure with other people. So Virgo rising, that's the astrology for July 2025. Wishing you all the best and speak with you soon. Hey Libra rising, let's get into the astrology for July 2025. 4 retrogrades happening in July, including Mercury retrograde, and we have a big, major, gigantic shakeup happening, and that's Uranus changing signs. Okay, I'm going to get into that, but first, since I'm talking about the retrogrades, let's get into that. So we have 3 planets in your 7th house going retrograde: Saturn, Neptune, and also Chiron. When Neptune enters its retrograde motion, it's all about revisiting past illusions, confusion, anything that is unclear, to come to some sort of clarity or understanding. It can also emphasize on spirituality. Saturn going retrograde is about revisiting areas where you need to put more attention, focus, more commitment, devotion, or where you need to accumulate more wisdom and maturity. Chiron is known as a wounded healer, so it makes us revisit areas where we may have been hurt or challenged, and it helps us to come to realizations, understandings, to empower ourselves and move through more of the negative experiences into positive experiences. So all these energies in your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and commitment. There's a lot of love stuff going on. I mean, I always say this, as a Libra dominant, ruled by Venus, a goddess of love and relationships, in your life, there's always going to be an emphasis on relationships. So I know you've had like the eclipses happening in your 1st and 7th house, and now you got Saturn and Neptune and Chiron. I know you feel like you're going through it, but it's not going to impact everyone at the same time. Like, everyone's chart is unique, so it really depends on you and your individual chart. But that's the overall theme. A lot of focus, a lot of revisiting on relationships. It doesn't always have to be like a romantic relationship. It could be some significant relationship in your life, or even some sort of partnership in your life, okay? Because Libra, it's all about balance, it's all about harmony, and that's the ultimate goal when you have a lot of energy in the 7th house. Moving on to Mercury going retrograde, that's happening in your 11th house in the sign of Leo. So that retrograde, it's emphasizing on friendships, groups, networkings, your social circle, acquaintances, and even your hopes and wishes for the future. So there may be some past conversations that you have to revisit, or anything that hasn't come to a resolution or some sort of understanding. Through the retrograde phase, you may be kind of navigating through that, or even navigating through some of your hopes and wishes for the future. So retrogrades are about reflecting, revisiting the past, and resolving anything that needs kind of like a resolution so you can move forward. Now, since I was speaking about relationships, let's kick off with Venus changing signs. So July the 4th, it moves into Gemini, entering your 9th house. So the 9th house has to do with your mind, higher mind, traveling, movement, adventure, optimism, faith. It's also the area of life that rolls over communication. So Venus here can find a lot of pleasure in learning things, traveling, socializing, even getting creative. So that's something that Venus is really going to have fun with. And Venus does move signs again at the end of the month, July the 30th, into Cancer, which it will join Jupiter in your 10th house. So it's a very beautiful energy. You can have a lot of charm, a lot of charisma, great for socializing, great for career goals and ambitions, and you can really shine during this time as well, and a lot of creativity can pour as well. Let's move on with July the 7th, the big one. Uranus changes signs out of your 8th house into your 9th house. Uranus is a planet of innovation, freedom. It's a planet of quantum leaps, quantum jumps, and awakening. So when it's in the 9th house, this could definitely emphasize a lot on spirituality, spiritual enlightenment, intuitive flashes, intuitive downloads, really awakening to different aspects of spirituality, but also when it comes to just your mind, you can feel so creative and so eccentric. Your belief systems can change quite a bit during this time. Like, this is like the ultimate awakening experience, Uranus in the 9th house. So that could be major for you. Even when it comes to like wanting to break free and travel a lot, you may get kind of bored of like just a mundane routine and you want more excitement in life. So this could also indicate a lot of travel. Okay, moving on to the lunar events. So we have a full moon on July the 10th happening in Capricorn in your 4th house of home, family, security. This is where you also go to retreat and rejuvenate. So a very healing full moon, I must say. Full moons are about letting go, releasing, and when you have a full moon in the 4th house, the sun's going to be in the 10th house, so shining light on career goals and ambitions, and the moon is going to be in the 4th house of home, family, and personal life. So there could be something that changes or transforms in these two areas of life, or there may be something that needs to be changed in order to gain better balance and harmony between these two areas of life. We got a new moon in Leo happening on July the 24th. This new moon is also happening in the 11th house of friendships, groups, networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. And it's a very intense new moon because it's in an opposition with Pluto, which is in your 5th house. So when there's an opposition with Pluto, we've got to be mindful of emotions, desires, motivation, intention, because it's a very magnetic energy, but then it can also have a very unconscious drive. This is a time to be mindful that you don't get into any ego power struggles with other people, because due to the intensity of Pluto, it can get really intense, for a lack of better words. Now, new moons are about new beginnings, new cycles, and things developing. So with this new moon, there could be a breakthrough or transformation regarding 11th house matters, but also when it comes to 5th house matters, when it comes to creativity, expression, even dating and romance and relationships can go through a change. So there's a lot happening in July. Retrogrades, a lot of revisiting the past. We have a very healing Capricorn full moon impacting home and family. There may be a change there happening. There may be a release, a emotional purge happening, especially with Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune making positive aspects. This is suggesting, if you let go of something that doesn't serve you, you're making room for new things to occur. And then we got this intense new moon where we can have this new beginning, new start coming into our life, developing further. But there's also a lot of transformation that can occur. Uranus changing signs, entering Gemini. So a lot is going on in July. Take care, Libra, and I will speak with you soon. Have a great month. Hey Scorpio, Scorpio rising, let's get into the July astrology. So 4 planets going retrograde, Uranus changing signs, intense new moon in Leo opposite Pluto. Let's dive into it. Kicking off with the planets that are going retrograde. So Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, and Chiron all go retrograde in July. Neptune, Saturn, and also Chiron will go retrograde in your 6th house in Aries. Neptune is about revisiting, when in retrograde, revisiting past illusions, any type of confusion or where you didn't gain any clarity, and really coming to some sort of understanding of certain situations so that you can move on in a very grounded approach. Saturn is about revisiting areas and experiences of life that require more attention, focus, commitment, devotion, responsibility, so that you can accumulate more wisdom and maturity. And Chiron is known as a wounded healer, so it's about, in retrograde motion, revisiting any hurt or challenge that you've experienced and come to some sort of understanding and move forward with that in a very empowered perspective and state of mind. So it's all about empowerment. With Mercury retrograde happening in Leo in your 10th house, this is impacting career goals and ambition. So Mercury retrograde is making things slow down. Things may not always go the way we want them to go or on the time pace we want them to go, but it's about going over things that perhaps have been overlooked or underlooked, or where there needs to be more focus, more reflection, so that you can become clear on where you're headed. Okay, so retrogrades are about reflection, reviewing, reanalyzing, so that we can be crystal clear and then move forward. It's not something to panic over. It's an empowering time. Let's get into Venus, the goddess of love and relationships. So July the 4th, Venus changes into Gemini, impacting your 8th house. This is a very Scorpio, Pluto area of life. So when Venus is in Gemini in the 8th house, very active, very sensual, intimacy, relationships are super important. There's more intensity here. There's also a focus on resources, and there's more of a financial desire here as well. So Venus is really going to be in her deepest expression in the 8th house. Now, Venus does change signs at the end of the month on July the 30th, entering Cancer, where it will meet up with Jupiter. And when it's meeting up with Jupiter, it's all about indulging. It's a very delicious energy. But in the 9th house, it's about traveling, movement. It's about spirituality, creativity, moving around, having fun, exploring, going on adventures. Now, the thing about Venus is Venus will really be very eccentric when it's in the 8th house in Gemini, because July the 7th, Uranus is also entering Gemini. Okay, so Uranus, being the planet of shakeups and change and awakenings, is a major transit. For the last 7 years, it's been in Taurus, impacting relationships and partnerships, and perhaps, depending on your chart, even like just so many aspects of life, and really pushing you so that you can become the most authentic version of self. In the 8th house, this is going deeper, taking spiritual awakenings even more deeper, having a lot of spiritual enlightenment occurring in your life, getting into the esoterics, the mystical side of life. This is where you want to break free. And it can even impact relationships, because the 8th house is an extension of the 7th house. It's about taking relationships even more deeper, or perhaps you want to experience more freedom or more change as well. A very eccentric, awakening time. This could also be impacting resources and what you own. You want more freedom in your life as well. So it's a very interesting, exciting planet Uranus. And sometimes, yes, it can be unpredictable and things may not go the way you want them to go, but ultimately it's about pushing through and persevering through certain situations so that you can become the most authentic version of self. So it's a big one to watch out for, okay? Moving on, July the 10th, we've got a full moon in Capricorn happening in your third house. So the sun will be in the ninth house and the moon will be in the third house. It's a very healing full moon. So full moons are associated with letting go, endings, things coming to a finale, conclusion, so that we can begin anew. This may have to do with communication, having some deep conversations that are due so you can release, let go of what you've been feeling or what you have been thinking so that you can then move forward and come to some sort of resolution. This could also be like a deep energy cleanse kind of thing as well. And it can also impact traveling, especially because the sun is in the ninth house and the moon being in the third house. This can also mean moving around as well. This could impact creativity, ideas, thought processes, things that you've been holding on or just reprocessing. There could be like this aha moment or epiphany that occurs during this full moon in Capricorn. It could also have to do with home, family, and structures as well, but it's very healing. Moving on, the sun enters Leo on July the 22nd, shining light on your 10th house, and we also have a new moon in Leo, July the 24th. Now, there's a lot of energy in your 10th house of career, goals, and ambitions. With this new moon, there's a lot of intensity because this new moon is opposite Pluto. So whenever there's a Pluto influence, we've got to be mindful of our unconscious self. We've got to be mindful of intensity, intent, motivations, deep desires, because it's a very potent time. Be mindful of getting into any ego, power struggles with other people, because like I said, there's a lot of intensity here. And it's a time for transformation, even though this is a new moon, so it's about new beginnings, new developments happening, progress, which could impact career goals and ambitions, or even home and family life. There could be a deep transformation, even like a full moon kind of effect of something changing, shifting, or letting go of something so that you can make room for something else. So this could be very profound, especially because if you are very Pluto dominant or even just having a Scorpio sun or Scorpio rising, Pluto plays a huge part of one's life with those placements. So this could be a time where something profound can occur. Of course, this depends on your chart and placements and degrees and what have you. So an action-packed month, July, a lot going on, retrogrades, Uranus changing signs, a very healing full moon, and a very intense, powerful new moon in Leo. So wishing you all the best and speak with you soon. Hey Sag rising. Let's get into the astrology of July. So we got 4 retrogrades, Uranus changing signs, and an intense new moon ahead. Let's kick off with a retrograde. So Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and Mercury all go retrograde in July. Neptune, Saturn, and Chiron will go retrograde in Aries, impacting the 5th house. So this is the area of life that rules over pleasure, expression, fun, excitement, creativity, and also dating as well. So when Neptune goes retrograde, it's about revisiting any past illusions or confusion so we can get to some clarity and be clear. Saturn retrograde is about focusing on things that need more attention, need more commitment, need more responsibility so you can accumulate more wisdom and more maturity. Chiron is known as a wounded healer, so it's about reflecting on any painful or challenging experiences so that you can come to some sort of understanding and move forward feeling empowered. So a lot of focus there regarding matters of the 5th house, and this varies depending on your own individual chart. And then we also have Mercury going retrograde in your 9th house. Mercury retrograde is also a period of reflection, slowing down. Things sometimes don't go the way we want them to go or on the time frame we want them to go on, but because there's a lesson to learn. So with Mercury in the 9th house, Mercury here may revisit past situations, have certain conversations that need to be had, or This may focus on philosophies, your belief systems, your thought process may go through some type of change during this time, or this may even impact travel as well. But there is a greater lesson here, and there's an importance of slowing down and reflecting so that we can move forward with a much more clear thought process. Let's move on to July the 4th, because we have Venus, the goddess of love, changing signs into Gemini, impacting your 7th house. So Venus is emphasizing here on relationships, on committed partnerships, relationships, romance, dating, love, marriage. Venus here is in her element, okay? So it's going to bring a lot of excitement here. And the reason I say excitement is because a few days later, Uranus changes signs from Taurus into Gemini. So it's going to move out of your 6th house into your 7th house. And this is really going to shake up relationships. Uranus is about change and awakening. And when it changes signs and areas of life, it can bring unpredictability, but what it's doing is moving things forward. It can bring quantum leaps, quantum jumps. This is where you may require more freedom, more flexibility, or you need some sort of change to happen because you need excitement. You may feel very eccentric, and this could impact relationships. So again, depends on your chart. There may be some sort of change you experience in a relationship, or you meet somebody new, or somebody who's very Uranian, and you need more freedom, you need more excitement. Things can dramatically change with Uranus in the 7th house regarding relationships. And speaking of relationships, July the 30th, Venus also changes signs again, moving into Cancer, joining Jupiter in your 8th house. So Venus in the 8th house is more deep and intense, more expressive, intimacy, close bonds, connecting, going deeper. Is super important for Venus here. Moving on, July the 10th, full moon in Capricorn, impacting your 2nd house. The 2nd house rules over what you own, resources, money manifestation. This also rules over self-worth, values. And with the moon being here, and it being a full moon, there could be some sort of release, coming to an end of a cycle, some type of transformation that occurs. There may be a lot of healing that happens as well, because there's a very strong healing emphasis with this full moon in Capricorn. So something may change regarding matters of the 2nd house. Moving on, let's get into the new moon in Leo. So July the 24th, we have a new moon in Leo happening in your 9th house. So we've got Mercury retrograde, the sun there, and the moon. This is an intense new moon because it will be in opposition with Pluto. So we've got to be careful of our unconscious mind, our intense desires or intentions or motives, because there's a magnetic influence here as well. Being careful with other people and making sure we don't get into any ego battles or power struggles, because Pluto can get really intense there. But in a positive manifestation, it's about seeing the imbalances in life and seeing where you need to make a change, where you need to release or let go of something that is not serving you anymore, so that you can truly transform. And this has a lot to do with belief systems, spirituality, philosophies. And also when it comes to your mind and communication, there may be a very important conversation that needs to be had. New moons do emphasize on new beginnings and new cycles and new chapters. So if you've been working hard on something regarding matters of the 9th and 3rd house, this may be the time where you see that manifestation. So Sag rising, a lot of things going on in July. Retrogrades, revisiting the past, Uranus changing signs, a lot of going back and forth, but also a lot of momentum, a lot of new energy coming through as well. So wishing you all the best. Take care. Hey Cap Rising, let's get into the astrology of July. So we got 4 planets going retrograde, Uranus changing signs, and a full moon in your sign. A lot to get into. Starting off with a retrograde, so we have Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, and Mercury all going retrograde this month. And Neptune and Saturn and also Chiron will go retrograde in Aries in your 4th house, impacting home, family, security, when it comes to retreating, when it comes to your personal life, even when it comes to you can get deep into the esoteric part of this as well and get into past life stuff. So when Neptune is in retrograde, it's about focusing on past situations where there may have been a lack of clarity, confusion, any illusions, and overcoming them. Saturn retrograde is about going over things that require more commitment, devotion, attention, focus, responsibility, so you can accumulate more wisdom and maturity. With Chiron, it's about going over things that have caused us some pain or some challenge so we can come to some type of understanding and move forward in a more empowered way. So this has a lot to do with home, family dynamics, and your personal life. A lot of energy here, which means there may be a lot of focus during the next couple of months here, and a lot of energy, a lot of navigating through this area of life. Okay, Mercury retrograde happening in your 8th house, so we're looking at shared finances, resources, intimacy, and spiritual transformation. With Mercury retrograde, things don't always happen the way we want them to happen all the time we want them to happen, but that's because there's a learning lesson behind it. Mercury retrograde wants us to slow down and reassess everything, reanalyze everything, and look at the details so that we can become really super clear on what it is that we want to accomplish from whatever area of life it's navigating through, and then we can move forward. Okay, so that's where the focus with the retrograde energy is. Let's start off with the changes that are happening. Venus changes signs into Gemini on July the 4th, and it will be impacting your 6th house of daily life, wellness, self-care, and work. So Venus may find a lot of pleasure at work, may be really creative, and even enjoy taking care of itself and really enjoying self-care. Uranus on July the 7th enters Gemini, moving out of your 5th house into your 6th house. So Uranus is about change and awakening. It can help with freedom, help you to become your authentic self. It's like a quantum jump, a quantum leap. Like, it can really support you in changing your life. And when it's in the 6th house, this has to do with wellness. This has to do with work. So something dramatic can change in work where you feel like you need something exciting, something eccentric, something different, something unique. It can help you get into something regarding wellness or self-care as well. That could be a huge theme with Uranus. But ultimately, it's pushing you to freedom, okay? Now, Uranus has the effect where sometimes things don't always seem like they're going the way we want them to go, because it can really surprise us, okay? There can be some sudden surprises, but that's all part of the journey with Uranus. Let's get into the full moon in Capricorn happening on July the 10th. So this is really personal for you because it's in your sign. So the sun will be in Cancer in the 7th house, and the moon will be in Capricorn in the 1st house. It's a very healing full moon, a lot of healing energy here, and it's supporting in letting go, releasing something, especially energy, emotions, things that you've absorbed in the last month, and clearing and detoxing so you can refresh, renew, letting go of something that's not serving you so you can begin a new cycle. So there could be a transformation that occurs in sense of self, identity, life direction, or even relationships. And this varies from chart to chart. Some people will feel the effect of it more potently, and it can also support you in the future and the path and the goals you have for the future, because we have some positive Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune aspects happening here as well. Let's talk about the new moon in Leo happening on July the 24th. So this new moon in Leo is happening in your 8th house. So there's an emphasis on shared finances, resources, intimacy, deep spiritual transformation. A new beginning, a new cycle, a new chapter can occur in this area of life. Now, Pluto is in an opposition with this new moon, so things are intense. We've got to be crystal clear on our intentions and motivations, because Pluto can have a very magnetic effect, and being careful of not getting into any power struggles or ego battles with other people, because it's a very intense time. So even though this is a new beginning and a new cycle, because it's a new moon, it also has a very full moon effect due to the Pluto energy. So it can help to make some transformation, help us overcome something or change something in a more positive way. So the 2nd and 8th house axis are really being impacted here. And this could even have to do with your self-worth and how you believe in yourself and your values as well. So Cap Rising, wishing you all the best this month. Aquarius rising, let's get into the astrology of July. We got retrograde season happening. We got an intense new moon and Uranus, your ruler, changing signs. A lot to unpack. Let's get into the retrograde. So we have Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and Mercury going retrograde in July. Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron will be going retrograde in Aries in your 3rd house of communication, the mind, learning, and travel. So when Neptune goes retrograde, it's about revisiting any past situations that were either confusing or there were any illusions or lack of clarity, so we can become more clear in that area of life and more I guess, confident with what is actually the truth. With Saturn retrograde, it's about revisiting past situations where more devotion, attention, focus, commitment, responsibilities are required to accumulate more wisdom and maturity. Chiron is known as a wounded healer, so it's about facing any past kind of challenges or understanding any painful things we've gone through in life so we can become more empowered. So all this happening in the third house, so a lot of focus here, a lot of energy when it comes to your mind and how you think, how you kind of analyze and perceive things, and communication. You may have some important conversations during this retrograde period so that you could come to some clarity and certainty and move forward. So it's really going to help develop you regarding communication and having strong communication as well. With Mercury retrograde, that is going to be in your 7th house. So it won't impact everyone the same way. This, of course, varies chart to chart, but it's impacting relationships. So going through any situations in your relationship that require more understanding, that require you to move forward in, anything that is kind of like the elephant in the room that hasn't been addressed, Mercury retrograde can bring that up so that you can come to some sort of resolution. So that's where the retrogrades may impact you. And like I said, it varies chart to chart. And also remember, you got Pluto retrograde in your sign. Now let's move on to July the 4th, because we have Venus entering Gemini. When Venus enters Gemini, Venus will impact your 5th house of expression, pleasure, happiness, fun, joy, creativity, even romance and dating. So that can be a really positive energy for some of you guys, where you may feel very expressive and creative, and you may take some time to have fun. Now, Venus also changes signs right at the end of the month on July the 30th, entering Cancer, moving into your 6th house of work and daily life routine and wellness and self-care. So that's where you may take more pleasure in terms of taking care of yourself, fitness, wellness, or even when it comes to work. Let's get into the big one, Uranus. So July the 7th, Uranus enters Gemini, moving out of your 4th house into your 5th house. Uranus is going to go back into Taurus due to retrograde motion, but this is kind of like a teaser, sneak peek. And when Uranus is in the 5th house, it's really eccentric. It wants to express itself. It's full of creativity. It's a thrill seeker, wants to have a lot of fun. This could even like change things up in relationships. So Uranus is really important for you because it's your ruler. So it's always associated with change and freedom and awakenings, and it can be a really great time if you work in the field of creativity and the way you express yourself. You can really shine during this time, and your originality, your individuality, your uniqueness can really take center stage. So that can be really positive, even channeling your creativity. And even when it comes to like romance and dating and relationships, there could be a lot of experiences here, a lot of change, need for change, and that can be exciting. Moving on, let's get into the lunar events. So we got a full moon happening on July the 10th in Capricorn, impacting your 12th house. So the moon will be in the 12th house, the sun will be in the 6th house. Full moons are about releasing, letting go, things coming to an end for a new beginning to occur. It's about transformation. It's a very healing full moon. So there may be some change or shift regarding work or wellness, even when it comes to your spirituality, when it comes to your creativity as well. And this is about the past as well, because the moon is in the 12th house. So there may be some situation from the past. It could be the past month. It could be from the past year. Any energy or situations you've absorbed, it's time to let go and release so that you can make space for new great energy to come into your life. The new moon in Leo happening on July the 24th in your 7th house. So a lot of light shining in your 7th house, okay? A lot of energy here. This new moon is a very intense new moon because it's opposing Pluto. So we got to be careful of the unconscious. We got to be careful of our motivations, intentions, and also careful of not getting into any ego power struggles, because that can be a tendency with difficult Pluto or challenging Pluto aspects. And with this energy, it's about transformation, even though it has, because it's a new moon, it's associated with new beginnings and new cycles and new chapters, but nonetheless, that Pluto energy gives us an opportunity to let go, to release, to change, to transform. So anything that is kind of like stagnant or ready to move or progress, this could be the time regarding your sense of self, identity, life direction, and relationships and partnerships. So an action-packed month ahead, retrograde season, an intense new moon, Uranus changing signs. There is a lot going on. Take care, Aquarius, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Pisces, Pisces rising. Let's get into the astrology of July. We got retrogrades happening, Uranus changing signs, and an intense new moon. Let's kick off with the retrograde. So we have Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, and Mercury going retrograde. Neptune, Saturn, and Chiron will go retrograde in your second house in the sign of Aries. So when Neptune is in retrograde, it's about revisiting any past illusions, confusion, or any lack of clarity, so you can become more clear and move forward with knowing what is fact and fiction. Saturn retrograde, it's about revisiting past situations that require more attention, focus, detail, that require more commitment, devotion, responsibility, so that you can accumulate more wisdom and maturity. And Chiron retrograde is about revisiting any challenges, past challenges, or any type of hurt associated with the area of life it's transiting, so that you can learn from it, grow from it, and become more empowered. And it's impacting the second house of self-worth, values, money manifestation, finances, resources, what you own. This is a material realm, okay? And there's a lot of activity here. A lot of your energy may go into this area of life for the next couple of months with this retrograde energy. And retrograde energy helps us to slow down and reflect, to revisit, to reanalyze, so we can really move through some energies, move through certain experiences, and so that we can, at the end of it all, become more empowered. Now, Mercury retrograde is happening in Leo in the 6th house for your zodiac. The 6th house has to do with your daily life routine, wellness, self-care, and also work. Mercury retrograde is also about reflecting and revisiting certain situations that need to be navigated through. So we're looking at important conversations that need to be had, or even when it comes to your own thought process. Sometimes things don't go the way we want them to go with Mercury retrograde, or in the time frame we want them to go in. However, it's about, divine timing. It's about lessons to be learnt. And with the 6th house, this could have to do with your daily life routine, wellness, and also work. So there may be a lot of activity going on there as well. So that's the retrograde stuff. Now let's get into the changes. So July the 4th, we got Venus entering Gemini. So Venus entering Gemini will impact the 4th house of home, family, and your personal life. So you may find a lot of pleasure, joy, a lot of comfort when it comes to home life, spending time at home, decorating, buying things for the home. Like, that's very Venusian when, Venus is in the 4th house. So there's a lot of pleasure and joy there. Venus also moves signs at the end of the month on July the 30th, entering Cancer, changing into your 5th house of creativity, expression, pleasure. It's going to be joining Jupiter, so it's very happy in the 5th house. I mean, it's probably the best place for Venus and Jupiter to be, is the 5th house together. I mean, there's so much joy here. So much light, great for romance and dating. So it's a really beautiful, abundant energy. July the 7th, Uranus enters Gemini, and this is a big one because Uranus is a mega player in astrology. It's all about change and awakenings, okay? So for the past 7 years, Uranus has been in Taurus, and it will move back due to retrograde energy, but as a little teaser, a little taster of Uranus changing signs into Gemini. It's going to be moving into your 4th house. That's a big one, okay? When Uranus changes signs, it can bring a lot of unpredictability. Things don't sometimes make much sense because there's so much going on. It shakes up your life. And this is, the 4th house is almost like the foundation of your chart. It's the base of your chart. So we're looking at home life, family, personal life, security, stability. Uranus is changing things up. You may want more freedom. You may want to move. You may want to have a different home base. This could even bring a lot of awakenings, a lot of epiphanies, a lot of spiritual enlightenment, because we can get really esoteric with the 4th house as well. So this is going to be just changing a lot when it comes to just the foundation of your life as well, because home is everything. Home is everything. It's connected to sense of self, identity. It's connected to relationships and love. It's connected to work life, healing, wellness, you name it. So a lot of change happening there. Moving on, we got a full moon in Capricorn happening on July the 10th. This full moon will impact your 11th house. So the moon will be in the 11th house, the sun will be in the 5th house. So we're looking at friendships, groups, networking, social life, hopes and visions for the future. We're also looking at, with the sun being in the 5th house, of pleasure, joy, creativity, even relationships. So full moons being a time of things coming to the culmination point. Sometimes there can be endings here, releasing, letting go, making room for something new to begin. This has a lot of healing energy, this full moon in Capricorn. So really letting go of things you've probably absorbed in the last month, energies, experiences, and taking time to process. This could even, for you, impact the 11th house as something changing or transforming in terms of friendships or people that you're connected to in some sort, or even when it comes to a transformation in your hopes and visions for the future. July the 24th, we have a new moon in Leo, very intense new moon, because it's going to be opposing Pluto. So we got to be mindful of how we think, our intentions, motives, making sure we don't get into any power struggles or ego battles with anybody. Pluto will be in the hidden part of your chart, and that's the 12th house. So you got to be really aware of your surroundings and what's going on. And the new moon will be in the 6th house of daily life, routine, wellness, and work. So there could be something that changes or progresses in that area of life. And even though it's a new moon, so it's associated with a new chapter, it also has a full moon kind of element to it, and that's due to Pluto. Pluto's potency, Pluto's influence of really transforming things. So a lot of 6th house energy for you this month, but also a lot of spiritual energy with the 12th, Pluto in the 12th house, a lot of intuition, psychic energy here as well, a lot of moving through some deep buried, even ancient hidden energies. So a lot of change happening in July, retrograde season, Uranus changing signs, an intense new moon, a lot going on. So take care, and I'll speak with you soon, Pisces rising.